All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're kicking off a journey into one of the most practical and timeless wisdom texts ever compiled, Pirkei Avos, or Chapters of the Fathers. At its heart, it's really a book that asks one big question. How do we become better people? You've probably heard this quote before, right? It's this perfect, masterclass in balancing taking care of yourself with taking care of others. But what you might not know is that it comes from this 2,000-year-old text. And let me tell you, this book is just hacked with powerful, practical wisdom exactly like this. So, in the huge library of Jewish thought, the Talmud, Pirkei Avos is a total standout. I mean, there are no dense legal arguments, no back and forth about tiny ritual details. It's all about ethics. It's about character. It's about figuring out how to navigate this complicated thing we call being human. And the thing is, these teachings, they come from real people, scholars, mystics, even a former woodcutter named Hillel. They hammered out this earned wisdom while their world was literally falling apart around them. We're talking war, persecution, just immense uncertainty. So this isn't some abstract ivory tower philosophy. Nope, this is wisdom forged in fire. All right, let's dive in. So here's the game plan for how we're going to break down the very first teaching. First, we're going to look at where this wisdom even gets its authority. Then we'll check out the 3 core instructions it gives for survival. And finally, and this is the big one, we'll talk about what it all means for you today. Okay, so what's super interesting here is that this book on ethics, well, it doesn't start with ethics at all. It actually starts with a history lesson. And believe me, there's a really good reason for that. Before it gives you even one piece of advice, the text makes this huge claim. It's basically saying, hey, listen up, this isn't just some guy's good idea. This is part of a received tradition, a treasure passed down carefully, hand to hand, through generations. It's their way of saying, what you're about to hear, it has stood the test of time. And here's what that chain looks like. The opening line just lays it all out, this unbroken chain of transmission. It starts with Moses at Mount Sinai, gets passed to Joshua, then the elders, then the prophets, all the way down to this group of 120 sages called the Men of the Great Assembly. So that brings us to this final group in the chain. What did they have to say? I mean, think about it. They were in charge of carrying this whole tradition forward after prophecy had ended. That's a time of massive uncertainty. So whatever advice they gave, it had to be rock solid. And what they offered was this amazing 3-part toolkit. And it's not just for preserving religious law, It's really a blueprint for preserving anything you care about. A culture, a family, even a business or an idea. So let's jump into the first one and see how it works. The Hebrew word they use here is metzunim, and it means being patient, slow, careful. And this isn't just advice for judges in a courtroom, right? It's for all of us. It's a call to fight that urge to make snap judgments, to just pause before we fire off that angry email or react to some crazy headline. It's a powerful reminder that we almost never have the full story. Now, this next one was a totally revolutionary idea at the time. The idea that wisdom isn't some private treasure you hoard for a select few. It's more like a flame. The more you share it, the brighter it gets. The survival of any idea that matters depends on us being generous enough to pass it on. And you gotta understand, this was a deliberate choice. There was another school of thought that said, nope, only teach the elite, the smartest, the ones from the right families. But the Men of the Great Assembly pushed back. They said, teach everyone. Why? Because you never ever know where greatness is going to pop up. I mean, Rabbi Akiva, one of the greatest sages in all of Jewish history, was an illiterate shepherd until he was 40 years old. Just think about that. Okay, the fence. Think of it like this. You've got a cliff edge. The real danger is falling off the cliff, right? The fence is the safety rail you build a few feet back from the edge. It's a buffer zone. It's this incredibly humble idea that acknowledges, hey, we're human, we mess up. So this is all about building smart habits and boundaries that protect the things we value most, often from ourselves. Okay, so here's where it all comes together. This ancient structure, this idea of receiving, preserving, and transmitting, it's not just a history lesson about ancient Judaism. It's a universal model. It's actually about you. Look, we all inherit stuff. Maybe not a tradition passed down from Mount Sinai, but we all get values, skills, stories from our parents, from our teachers, from our culture. Every single one of us is standing right in the middle of a chain. Just think about it for a second. What are the core values you live by? The skills you use every day? The family stories that defined who you are? You didn't just invent all that out of thin air. It was passed down to you. You are the recipient of a legacy. And that's what this very first teaching does. It kind of forces us to look in the mirror and ask, okay, what am I doing with the stuff I've been given? Am I being deliberate and careful with it? Am I sharing it generously? And am I building those fences to protect it? And that really is the challenge. It asks you to see yourself not as some isolated island, but as a vital link, a connection between the past and the future. So the question it leaves us with is, what wisdom has been entrusted to you, and what are you doing to pass it on? Join us next time when we're going to dig into the very next teaching, which talks about the 3 pillars the entire world stands on. Thanks for watching.